Hey, welcome to the Sports Reverends podcast. My name is Dan.
And my name's Drew.
We're no experts, but we are
the Sports Reverends.
Well, we got a lot on the docket today, boys. Shout out to the Ball brothers being signed by Rock Nation. And Aaron Gordon dropped a diss track to Dwayne Wade called 9 out of 10. And Joel, why don't you share with us a little bit about the new hope that we may have?
New hope, yeah. Honestly, NBA is starting to target May 8th to open facilities in certain markets. And a lot of these markets are going to be ones that are not heavily populated like Toronto and New York. But even the fact that they're thinking about it is a huge deal because it shows that the whole fear over COVID is starting to weaken. We're seeing places have their curve flatten. And it means that we may even have end of a season and playoffs to tide us through these dark times. Woo! So it's really exciting. And if the NBA starts to open, guaranteed NFL is going to start on time. And that is big money for TV revenues everywhere.
That's good. That's good.
It's exciting.
So, Drew, tell us your first impressions on the second session of The Last Dance, the MJ documentary, the best thing we can watch right now because there's no other sports, but it's actually super good. Drew, give us a little overview.
Yeah, honestly, I'm looking forward to Mondays every week now, because I get to watch this. But first impressions of today, and I think everyone's will be, is how crazy is Dennis Rodman? Seriously, I was probably 5 years old when this documentary is taking place. I heard rumors, but asking a coach to go to Las Vegas for a couple days,
you needed a vacation, bro.
Just out of bounds in today's world, and and honestly, seeing how good of a player he was, and coming from being kicked out of his house at 18 years old, and working his way up and becoming the defender that he was, rebounder that he was, and just how dedicated he was too. You don't hear that about him, being in the film room and stuff. And so that was my first impressions, just a new appreciation and wondering how crazy he was of Dennis Rodman.
Nice. What about you, Coach?
My first impression was how close Doug Collins and MJ were.
Yeah.
I didn't expect that. You think I always see Doug Collins like an old guy on the news, doing the highlights or whatever. But him and MJ were really tight, and it must have been really hard when Krause fired him to bring on Phil. I think there's a line in there where MJ was saying he wasn't too pumped about Phil coming in because he was taking the ball out of MJ's hands.
Yeah. Right.
And you have a guy you're close with, a guy who pretty much just says, "Here's the ball, go do what you need to do." And then all of a sudden he's gone. It is tough. And I think we underrate Doug Collins a lot, because we don't really hear about him too much after that.
Coach, tell us what you think of this awesome documentary.
Well, I look forward to Mondays for sure. The thing that stuck out to me the most was the love and relationship that Jordan had with Doug Collins. It must have been really hard for Jordan when Krause said, "Hey, you're gone. Doug Collins is gone, and now you bring in Phil Jackson." And one of the quotes that really stuck out to me during the two episodes was, I think MJ says, "It was hard for me to see Phil come in because he wanted to take the ball out of my hands." So you have a guy who is going to say, "Hey, Mike, here's the ball. 10 seconds left. Do what you got to do," to all of a sudden, "Hey, you're in the post, move the ball around." So it's really interesting to see the relationship between Doug Collins and Jordan, because you don't hear a lot about Doug Collins after. And he's a good coach, good commentator, and obviously he's a smart guy, and because he earned MJ's respect, and you only hear good things coming out of MJ about Doug Collins, especially in this documentary. So that was one of the things that really stuck out to me, aside from the whole Rodman stuff.
Cool. I wanted to give a shout out to the unsung hero, Tex Winter, the creator of the triangle offense. It was really cool to see just a glimpse of how complex it really is and how it changed Michael Jordan. And he had to actually buy into trusting teammates. Another thing that stood out to me was also the learning curve and the perception of Jordan before he won. He was just a guy who could score, is what they could say. He was never a winner. And when you think about that now, it's like, what? How can you ever say that about Michael Jordan? So him to get over that hump was pretty wild. And obviously the relationship, even till this day, with him and the Detroit Pistons and his thoughts about the Pistons
That's spicy.
It's still spicy. Still spicy. Okay, so this leads to our question. Did Michael Jordan need to beat the Pistons to go on to become the GOAT? Did he need the Pistons to get to where he was in his level of greatness?
I can answer that. I think you guys are obviously too young to remember this, but in that time period between the whole Magic Bird and moving forward, no one knew what to expect, right? And you have Jordan here coming in, and he just changed the game. He brought it to a whole new level with his athleticism and things like that. But it's like when you can't get out of the first round, it doesn't matter, right? It doesn't really matter how great of a player you are. If you can't get out of the first round, no one's going to care. No one remembers who lost the championship 2-3 years ago, really. We remember the winners. So for him to get to the next level, I don't know if it necessarily had to be the Pistons. Let's say if the Knicks were good that year that they won or whatever, I don't think it really mattered if it was the Pistons. But I think that because it was Detroit, it was because it was this team that had consistently beat up on them year after year after year, that it was really important mentally that they beat the Pistons and to become the greatest of all time. Because there's another line in there that Jordan goes, if we got beat up and we start to whine to the refs or tried to push back, the Pistons knew they won. They won the mental game, right? So if you remember when Pippen goes down, when Rodman fouls him and gets up and doesn't complain, the Pistons are like, oh man, this is a whole new thing. So I think going through the Pistons and getting beat up, having the Jordan rules, being forced to trust his teammates, that really elevated him to a whole new level. And then finally getting to the finals and winning it right away, I think was a big step. So if Jordan only wins 3 out of his 6, I think it tarnishes his legacy. Like LeBron now. LeBron's only won, 3 of 7?
9. Oh, yeah, 3 of 6. Yeah.
No.
3 of 9. He's been to 9. He's lost 6.
Okay, so 3 and 9. I mean, yeah, LeBron's an amazing player, but he's no 6 of 6, right?
Yeah.
And I think that impacts his legacy, as it will. Maybe there's the LeBron lovers now, but down the road, it's going to impact his legacy. I think, and I think every team coming up from baseline to ascending to its champions, you have to go through the previous team to win that won it. You got to beat your rivals and dominate and ascertain that winning side of things.
Cool.
Yeah.
Good thoughts. Go ahead, Drew.
Yeah, if I could just compare it to a hockey scenario, we look at Alexander Ovechkin constantly getting beat by Sidney Crosby and the Penguins. And on the year they won the Stanley Cup, they went through Pittsburgh. And I think that was an important hump that Alex needed to overcome, because you ask anyone, especially in Canada, like, people are going to say, Crosby's the better player, and he might be, but Ovechkin's legacy, as he might go down as one of the best goal scorers of all time, would have been hurt by the fact that, you never could have gotten past Pittsburgh. So, and again, I'm too young. Like, this was before I was even born, the bad boy Pistons, but I didn't know how good they really were. And I think it was important for Jordan to be able to beat a team that had beaten them the 2 years earlier.
Yeah. Yeah, 100%. And Michael Jordan is on record saying Isaiah Thomas, he respects him as a person and is the second best point guard of all time, even though this documentary doesn't really show that at all. But I think without the Pistons and the way the Pistons beat up Jordan, Jordan wouldn't have been motivated to put on that 15 pounds of muscle. And how hard that would have been to actually do is insane. And that gave him the physicality to be someone that delivers the punishment instead of just receiving it all the time. So I think, honestly, with that competition, with the level of the champs, they were the champs, the Pistons, right? Being able to take over and get over that hump really pushed him and excelled for the trajectory of the rest of his career. It might have been different if he didn't, be forced to put on the 15 pounds of muscle. And I think they go hand in hand. I think it's a learning process for every one of these all-stars, every one of these legendary players, right? You have to learn from the predecessors, right? And learn and then overcome. And so I think that was his learning moment. So I would say yes, he needed the Pistons to become the GOAT. That's my answer. So
and it wasn't even close when they beat them.
Yeah.
They just straight up whooped them.
They won. The Pistons won the first game, and then they won 4 in a row.
And usually you see like a game 7, something dramatic happening, but
no, the Pistons got swept.
Pistons got swept.
Yeah.
Really?
But you see some sort of dramatic thing happen where it could go either way, like on maybe a turnover or the last second shot. But this was just 4 games of just, we're going to take care of you.
Yeah.
Foot to throat kind of deal.
And then he goes on against the Lakers. They lost the first game, but they played bad and then went on to win the rest. So
that's what I was thinking of.
Yeah. And so it was just a convincing win, which is really cool. It was also, I'll just add this in too. It's you mentioned Michael Jordan not being able to get out of the first round and losing all the time. It was also the first time he's had an all-star. It was a Scottie Pippen who is still just a baby and still ascending, but his first time all-star, not even near his peak. And that's where he and that's what took them over the next level too. So before that, he didn't have an all-star with him. I think that needs to be mentioned. So what were you going to say, Joel?
I was going to say, can you give
Coach,
me the examples of teams getting over this hump and going, to the next level? Can you think of anything else?
Yeah, of course. LeBron had to join Dwayne Wade and Chris Bosh to get over the Boston Celtics. That's the most recent one, I would say. Durant had to join the Golden State Warriors to get over the Golden State Warriors, and the Warriors needed Durant to join him too to get over LeBron and his Cavs team too.
Sure.
Other examples is different with Shaq and Kobe. Kobe kind of joined Shaq right away, so
that was different, yeah. But the roles switched.
The Raptors getting over LeBron.
Yeah, that's a huge one, right? Years and years of being plagued. Yeah.
I think my single favorite most recent finals run though was Dirk.
Yeah, that was ridiculous.
That was amazing. Beats Kobe, beats Durant and Russell, and just steamrolls everybody.
And beats the super Miami Heat.
Basically by himself too.
He had JJ Barea and Jason Kidd and Tyson Chandler, I think.
And an old Jason Kidd.
Yeah. Old Jason.
Yeah.
It was amazing.
And that actually that was a big topic of debate this last week, was the big 3 in Miami versus the top Golden State team. Which team would win? I guess that's a big topic because they were all, I guess, talking over Zoom themselves and put it on social media about their conversation. And Dwayne Wade and Steph Curry had some good comments with each other. But it's a good question. With the Golden State team at its peak, beat the Miami Heat team at their peak.
With Durant, you're talking about that, the 4 also? Oh,
yeah.
Golden State would win for sure. I think it'd be a better debate, the Golden State Warriors team the year before, the one that won the however many games there.
With Clay, Dre, and Steph.
Yeah.
Would they beat the Heat?
I think that would be the Heat that would take that.
I think the Heat in 7 for that one.
Yeah.
The Heat in 7.
Yeah, you'd have Steph and Clay, dropping threes for a couple of games, and they could save you.
Remember,
But-
young Iguodala's there.
Yeah, but you got 7 games of LeBron and Dwayne attacking the rim, beating you up.
Ray
You got
Allen.
Shane Battier locking you down too, right?
Bosch was playing unreal too.
Right. But I think once you throw in Durant into that mix, it's over.
Yeah.
It's over. Because no one can guard all 4 of them. That was just insane.
Well, you don't need to guard Draymond Green.
I mean, he can slip in for dunks and stuff. That's just extra points. Right? If Durant scores, let's just say Durant scores 30, Steph and Clay both scored 25. Right? That's 80 points there. You know, the 15 from Draymond, that's 15 points you didn't expect to get.
We need to put this on a 2K sim and see what happens, because that would be so exciting to see.
Yeah, those teams are all already preloaded in there probably too.
Yeah, probably. So that'd be fun. Okay, back on to the Jordan document. So a whole ton of it was about Dennis Rodman. A lot of young people know that Dennis Rodman was a good player. Older generation really believes in Dennis Rodman. Today, is Dennis Rodman an overrated or underrated player?
To me, I think he's underrated. Just of the fact that, like, there was a couple guys in the documentary that described him as the best on-ball defender they'd ever seen, and that's high praise. Like, with all the defense, like, that's all time, and you don't hear that all that often. Like, now Dennis Rodman's like a joke. Like you talk about him like he's a punchline to jokes. Like, and I think that just goes overlooked. And yeah, I'd say he's underrated for sure.
Yeah, I would definitely agree with that. I mean, a lot of people, when they try and learn basketball, they don't understand the defensive side of things. They don't understand that the way a guy shoots the ball will impact how he misses. And you don't see that a lot. You don't hear about that a lot. But to see him watching film, to see him talking about, the guy, how one guy puts a spin on the ball different than like Magic versus Jordan, and where he's going to stand, how that's going to impact the whole defensive rebounding is huge. Yeah. Right? You need, we talk about Draymond Green being this amazing all-around kind of guy. Robin would murder him, hands down. Yeah. He'd out-rebound him, he'd out-assist him, he'd out-hustle him. We just think of Robin, dating Madonna, marrying himself, crazy hair. And, obviously there's some mental things that he was working through. Mm-hmm. But on the basketball court, undeniable. He changed that team big time. Yeah. Even at the beginning of the doc, you got the great Michael Jordan, you got the great Scottie Pippen and Phil. But he asked the question, would they win that series or that series without him? And I think no.
Probably not.
I think that the intangibles that he brought, the hustle and the energy, is amazing, and you just don't see the smart aspects of Dennis Rodman being pushed forward. You don't see that part coming through. And I think he's super underrated, and I think it's too bad that his antics have colored his legacy, but. I think he'd definitely be under, because even with the Pistons, he was great. The guys in the Pistons knew that he was a really good, phenomenal player, and they probably didn't like battling against him every day.
Yeah.
Right.
So yeah, I think Dennis Rodman, I think he's really misunderstood as well. I watched a interview with Isaiah Thomas yesterday. Actually, he was interviewed today on First Take, and he gave a cool perspective of Dennis Rodman. He was talking about how Dennis Rodman on the Detroit Pistons never drank, never partied. He just went to work. And in the documentary, it talks about as getting into some lower level college and just going to work. And he worked and worked and worked. And when he went and asked Phil Jackson for a vacation, obviously I don't have any degree or anything like that or professional opinion, but in my personal opinion, I think that wasn't him needing to go on a vacation. I think he's crying out for help in that situation. He just needed to unwind, and he needed I think, family or friends to be with him instead of just going to do whatever he's doing in Vegas, right? That's just obviously
But that's also like that is thing. He was looking for comfort. He was looking for help in a group,
yeah,
right?
for sure. And I'm with you guys all the way. Totally underrated. Um, his defense, and I loved how he set up 5 people around the perimeter as he practiced and made them shoot randomly where he had to go catch the rebounds.
Yeah.
And that's a great drill. That's a great drill. You could work with some of the kids and stuff like that. I think that'd be excellent. But yeah, I'm with Dennis Rodman being underrated. Totally would be able to guard 1 through 4.5 to 5 nowadays. No, that's a lie. He could guard 1 through 5 nowadays. Yeah. And yeah, totally, they wouldn't have won without Dennis Rodman.
Can you imagine if you're Steph Curry and you have Rodman all over you?
Oh yeah,
like that would just be insane.
Well, maybe Steph Curry. I don't know. I have a lot of opinions on Steph Curry too. He's very underrated in that situation. He's fast. He's elusive. But yeah, that'd be scary. I would not want Dennis Rodman on me. When Dennis Rodman was on the Pistons and Pippen had his migraine game, could you imagine?
Yeah.
Oh man, that'd be insane.
That's another thing. I'm sure the doc's gonna come into this, but Pippen is kind of soft at times. Hey.
Yeah.
Like.
Well, that's when.
Oh.
Well, that's when they.
I'll back it up.
That's when they said it really turned when Pippen got knocked over by Rodman there.
By Rodman, yeah.
Yeah, and didn't react. They said that's when they knew. That's when even the Pistons knew, like, this is over.
Like before that, he was super soft, and then when when I'm sure the doc is gonna get to this, but I think somewhere in the second three-peat, there was a time where Phil called a play for Tony Kukoc instead of Pippen, or this could have been the year after. And Pippen got pissed and pulled himself out of the game. Right, so it's interesting to see the egos and the mentality going in, because Jordan was amazing, but he needed Pippen to back him up. But Pippen wouldn't be able to back him up unless Jordan showed faith in him.
Yeah,
right.
You know what I mean?
And previously about our talk about like getting over the hump. The difference with like LeBron and Michael Jordan is that Jordan had to learn basically on his own. He didn't have to go learn from Dwayne Wade, who's done it before, and then get over the hump, right? And then Pippen had to learn from Jordan, who is learning on his own too, right? So that's what. Anyways, this is the cool question I wanted to ask you guys about. I wanted to talk to you guys about your opinions, thoughts about the Detroit Pistons and Isaiah Thomas, and not the Isaiah Thomas of today, who apparently has been receiving a lot of hate over Twitter because people are tweeting at him wrong. Drew, why don't you start us off?
Yeah, I didn't even really hear. I knew that Isaiah Thomas and MJ had beef, but I didn't know what it all stemmed from. And to be honest, like, I think it could, like, I think I might be on the Pistons side when you look at the videos of when they lost their champion, or when they beat the Lakers. I think was that what they were talking about? Yeah, and then the Lakers walked off before.
Oh, the Celtics.
Or the Celtics, yeah.
Boston.
They were talking about. I forget what they were talking. Yeah, Boston walked off, and they just said like that was done and whatever, and like I think the Bulls might be taking on some offense that doesn't need to be taken on. I understand the other side of it with the sportsmanship, but I think both sides are being kind of childish, to be honest. That's my first take on it.
Well, that's fair opinion. Go ahead, Joel. Coach.
And I would go the opposite way, just because, for 3 years these guys beat up Jordan. Like, they literally beat him up. And I think when Isaiah said that if they knew what the backlash was going to be, that they would have shaken hands, I'm inclined to agree with Michael when he called it a bunch of whatever in the pod or in the document.
Yeah.
I don't in that moment when if I told you guys, hey, we're not going to shake hands, there's an understanding of what we're doing, right? There's an understanding that we're shunning them on purpose, and there's going to be backlash, but this is what we're doing because we don't care, right? And so I think for Isaiah to take this conciliatory tone about, oh, maybe we shouldn't have done, yeah, they knew what they were doing. I would rather them be like Bill Lambier and say, hey, I don't regret it whatsoever, right? And just own it. I think for me, that's the thing is like, if you're gonna do it, just own it. Not that it should matter so much. I think like Drew, you're right in the fact that they're saying that, you know, it's such a big deal, but just own it, right? If I call you a name and that's what I believe, I'm not going to backtrack 15, 20 years later and say, oh, well, you know, if the media was going to do it, no, it's like, I'm going to own it. If I disagree with you, I disagree with you until you prove me wrong. And so, yeah, I don't know. I think it's part of the era. That's kind of how it was, but I think this adds to the drama. I do feel bad for Isaiah because, you know, he upset the wrong guy.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, I'm not that I have any proof, but I'm sure, and many people have talked about it, that the reason why Isaiah didn't go to the Dream Team was because of Jordan.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And so
interestingly about that, so that got asked on First Take to Isaiah Thomas today. And Isaiah Thomas was like, okay, well, who are, because it said a bunch of them, right? A bunch of them said that they didn't want Isaiah Thomas playing on that team. So he's like, okay, why don't you tell me who, Stephen A? You're the one who's reporting, and you said that you have the sources of who. And then, so he calls him up, says, say who. And Stephen A's, well, I can't share that information. And and then Isaiah Thomas is like, well, I had a great relationship with Larry Bird. I had a good relationship with some of these guys. And if you can't say who these people are, I'm not going to talk about these ghost people. So he kind of called him out on that. And
but here's the thing. At that point, Magic is going out of the NBA. Larry can barely walk. Right? Those old guys, they don't have any say. Clyde Drexler, they're not going to say anything against Michael Jordan because he's MJ. He is the face of the league.
Isaiah Thomas was the MVP, was he not? Or at least a season ago.
Yeah, but you're forgetting that the NBA wanted Jordan to ascend.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
With the marketing.
Yeah.
Right? So yeah, sure. He had a great relationship with Bird and Magic, but Mike's got what's going on. Even you would assume that Bill Daly, who coached Isaiah, would have enough sway to pull him onto the team.
No, well, they got Bill Daly. Didn't Bill Daly not get selected as coach? Wasn't he taken off?
No, he coached them.
Oh, he was coaching them?
Yeah, he was coaching them.
I thought he said okay, never mind.
If you're Team USA and Michael Jordan comes to you and says, "Hey, you pick Isaiah, I'm not coming." What are you gonna do? Right?
Well,
for
right?
Sure. You're gonna be like, "Oh, okay, see ya, Isaiah. Yeah. We have enough guys here to crush it out of the team anyway."
Yeah.
It's just that's the part that bothers me. If you're gonna do something, own up to it. Because
it was just interesting to see Isaiah's response because none of the media shows any of the Detroit Pistons players getting hit, right? None of the media. Who did the Chicago Bulls have as their bigs?
Horace Grant.
And the second name that comes to your mind? That's a bully.
Bully. Oakley, maybe?
Charles Oakley. You think Charles Oakley didn't lay some wood down on these Pistons players?
Oh, I'm sure, but you look at the tape and Jordan's going. Do you know what the Jordan rules are?
Go ahead. You can share them. I saw them today.
Yeah. So the whole point was to not let him beat you in the air.
Yeah.
Right. So if he's on the wing, you push him to the elbow. If he's on the top, you force him left, which makes sense. And if he's in the post, you trap from the top. But all the time, you're physical with him, and B, you had to hit Jordan.
Yeah, get him to the ground.
Yeah, you got to hit him to the ground.
Touch him up.
No blood, no foul, right? But I mean, it goes.
Say touch him up.
But there was never rules for like Oakley to be like, oh, go after this guy. It was all after the fact, right?
I can't. It just seems to me like
It's
just
biased, yeah, for
It's
sure.
portraying it a little bit like the Bulls were this holier than thou. They go to church, and the Pistons, they're bad guys. Okay.
When they do the Pistons doc, you'll see it differently.
Yeah, exactly.
Right?
That's a
Obviously
solid.
gonna be some sort of bias.
I think and how come the Bulls never talk about being angry at Dennis Rodman? Dennis Rodman just gets a bye because he joins the Bulls. He was on that
Well, I think-
Detroit Pistons bad boys team, right?
Yeah, but when he joins the Bulls, like there was talk about, oh, they're gonna play with him, but they're never going to accept him. Jordan and Pippen led the way with saying, hey, this guy, sure, whatever, but we need him to win now. So it's that.
Yeah, but no one blames him for being part of the bad boys.
Oh, I'm sure they do. But he also didn't play a ton compared to like John Sally and those other guys.
Okay, I'm just saying there's bias to it. And what do you guys think about so I know you guys mentioned the sportsmanship on the Pistons end of things. What do you think of the Bulls shook their hands the 2 times they lost, right? They shook their hands, they had the respect. There was that respect to the game. One thing that Jordan did during that time was said that the Pistons aren't good for basketball. Their championships shouldn't even count because they're bad for basketball. And that hit the Pistons like in a huge way, right? Because Detroit's always looked at as like a, how do you say this, blue collar kind of place, right? And they're second class, and that's just Detroit's looked down like that. And so the city, between Chicago and Detroit, there's such a hate between just the city itself. And when Jordan said that, that really fueled the fire for these Pistons, right? So what do you think? Do you think the Pistons should have still shook their hands, or was it okay? Are you guys okay with it?
Drew, you want this one?
Yeah, like I think they should have, right? Like, because there's that respect factor. Jordan's done it the last couple of years, but I don't think it's a mandatory thing. Like, unless I don't know if there's an actual rule that you have to shake hands after. Like, I know in hockey, like it's an actual, like, you line up and shake hands after the thing. But
So polite, those hockey players.
I know, right? But I don't know. Like, I don't think it's a mandatory thing. I don't think they had to. I think the way they went about it didn't look the greatest, especially when you see like them smirking on the sidelines, like, this is what we're gonna do. And I agree with you, Joel. Like, they knew like some backlash was gonna come from this, but if you don't want to shake hands, just walk off. Whatever.
Yeah.
So
I agree.
Wait until the buzzer goes and walk off.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think, it's not a mandatory thing. There's a couple ways you can look at it. You can look at it as, we're setting an example for younger kids, younger players. I mean, I know in high school when we played our rivals, whether we liked them or not, whether we beat them a lot, we still shook their hands. But I think I'm not upset that they didn't do it. I think today, where you see as soon as the buzzer goes, everybody's high-fiving and dapping and talking about, where we're going to go after. It's too buddy-buddy.
Yeah.
Right? There's two
It is very buddy, all right? Very buddy.
Just say it's too buddy again.
It's too buddy.
Yeah, there you go.
But that's how I feel. We talked about this a couple pods ago. Is everybody's too friendly? There's no line of, hey, you're on that team, I'm on this team. It's all about unity and inclusive, which is fine, which is not bad. It's not a bad thing, but like, it's nice to see a rivalry. So I'm not upset that they did it. I just think that if you're going to do it, you own it.
Just like, why was there such an uproar for the Pistons doing it, and no uproar for Larry Bird, Kevin McHale, and the Boston
Larry Bird's
Celtics
white, bro.
doing it? I'm just what is the other reason? Honestly, what's the other reason?
I'll tell you the reason. It's about writing a narrative, right? It's about how you portraying the story.
Yeah.
But when Bird Celtics did that, they were kind of on their way out. So the story was about how great they used to be, how Larry's body broke down. Then you got these guys who come out and club everybody,
Mm-hmm.
right? And so they earn this nickname of bad boys, and it just fits with the bad boys narrative.
Yeah.
It's all about how you sell the story,
It's true.
right? So is it really that big of a deal? No. But it helps sells the doc, it helps sells books, movies,
Yeah.
with the narrative.
Mm-hmm. Well, yeah, that's great thoughts on Pistons. They're good perspective we got on Isaiah Thomas too, I think, and how great he actually was. Michael Jordan puts him right there, right under Magic Johnson as second greatest point guard of all time. It was really cool to see that clip of Jordan hitting the shot to win the game over the Cavs. I didn't know that he had to hit a clutch shot to gain the lead 2 possessions ago. And then the Cavs came back, put the pressure on them with 3 seconds left, and that was really cool to see. That was really cool to see, like the start of what people expected him to do for the rest of his career.
Do you think if Ron Harper guards him at the end, that he gets off a clean shot?
I think so. I think it would have been harder. I think
That's a tough shot. Like he pumps in midair and then finishes it.
yeah,
Right? Like
no,
that's a tough shot already.
it was insane. And what's it? Who was covering him again? Elo?
Yeah, Craig Elo.
Craig Elo. He did a good job denying the ball. It took him forever to get the ball in, right?
Yeah.
And
Once you beat, you beat.
the idea is that Elo's bigger, right? He's gonna at least contest the shot. Ron Harper is a lot smaller than Jordan, so he's gonna like elevate above. And
Jordan said he was a better defender.
yeah, he's a better defender. That's true. I'm just saying from the coach's perspective,
Yeah, I get it.
right? The big guy.
Out there.
Yeah.
If he misses that shot, does that change his legacy, you think?
Oh, I don't know.
The trajectory of his career.
I don't know. I've been writing Raptor reports, and one of the things that I think I'm going to talk about in my next Raptor report is that moment where everything changes. And I think that was Jordan's moment where everything really changed, where he hit that shot. He really believed that, they were the underdogs, right?
Yeah, they were, yeah.
And that's what changes the trajectory of their team. They went from, what did Jordan, Drew, do you remember what Jordan quoted when he said they went from being, their franchise was being losers to winners? He had a good quote about it.
Yeah, I forget what he said. But.
Yeah. Anyways, that's what I think is really cool to see. Like that moment that just changes everything for that franchise, at least for a time being. So, there's my next Raptors.
Well, just like Kawhi and the Raptors.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. It's like the Kawhi shot against 76ers there.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so guys, stay tuned for we're gonna drop another podcast on Wednesday. Drew, you want to share a little bit about our podcast we're dropping Wednesday?
Yeah, we're going to be interviewing my good buddy Cody Allen. He's a pastor here in Winnipeg and probably one and only Cincinnati Bengals fan. And we get to pick his brain about the draft and where he sees the Bengals going, and we give our opinions, and Dan talks to us about the Cowboys.
All right. I love it. And if you haven't already, when you're listening to these podcasts, what you can do is make sure you hit the download button. Hit the download button because that is better for us and getting our name out there and growing up the ladders and Spotify and Apple Podcasts. You can give us a rating as well if you can. That'd be fantastic. We appreciate
5
all
stars.
the followings. Yeah, hit the 5 stars and tell us a little bit what's going on this week for you, Drew.
Well, it's a weird rotation nowadays. Like I talked about it, like Sundays are usually the busy day and then Mondays are the day off. Now it's like Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursdays are the busy days and you get weekends off. So we're just ramping up here. I'm going to sit down and come up with a new sermon series for the next couple of weeks. But yeah, we're looking forward to it. And I'm looking forward to May 8th. Golf courses are supposed to open. So I'm excited to get back out there.
Cool. Coach?
Not a lot, just a bunch of client meetings via the wonderful Skype. So nice on top, nothing, just shorts on the bottom.
Nothing on the bottom.
Shorts. Hey, that's a different story altogether.
All
but
right.
pretty busy week. Got a couple things to finish up, but looking forward to the nice weather we're finally having.
Yeah.
Good.
I gotta say,
go ahead.
Good sermon on Sunday. You preached really well.
Oh, thanks. Shout out. I didn't get no Fred Fulford.
I thought he was talking to me.
No. I didn't get no Fred Fulford shout out, but that's okay. Drew did a couple weeks ago.
Yeah.
And my report from last Friday is that so I was able to turn off the drawings and annotations on Zoom, and the youth were upset about it, but I wasn't. And I was able to put my foot down, and I was really happy about that. We started Youth Alpha. That actually went over really well. It was pretty cool, and the kids were into it. And one of our youths who attend a Muslim middle school, they attended church with their grandma on Sunday, and so that was really cool.
Awesome.
So our youth alpha has been pretty cool. So that's what's going on with us. We're going to keep doing that on Fridays, and we'll keep going our Urban Hope Youth Program. So. All right, boys. It's great to see you. We'll do this again soon.
Yeah.
Sweet.
Peace
Check
out,
it out
world.
Wednesday. Check it out Wednesday.
Check it out Wednesday.
All right.
Like,
peace.
subscribe, all those good things. Peace out.
Peace.